Transmission fragment recovered from Expedition Alethea. Decoded July 23, 2416. I used to believe that knowledge was the purest form of light, that no truth could ever be too dangerous to hold. That was before we found the library. Now I understand why the universe keeps some things buried in the dark. The signal came to us out of nowhere. Not from any star, not from any known region, just a rhythmic pulse repeating across a dead section of the galactic rim. A whisper in the static. At first, we thought it was background radiation, a cosmic hiccup. But when the pulse began echoing prime numbers up to 23 and then reversed itself in perfect mirror sequence, everyone in the observation bay fell silent. I still remember that night on the Alethea. The low hum of the engines, the soft green glow of the hollow screens washing over our faces. "Run it again," I said. Rao, our communications lead, frowned. "Already did twice. It's not natural. Look." He expanded the waveform in real time, the signal folding back on itself like an equation rewriting its own parameters. "Jesus," someone whispered behind me. "Is that language?" "No," I said, though my stomach twisted. "It's math, and it's calling us." We triangulated the source over the next 6 days. A patch of nothing, 3.2 million light-years beyond the Perseus arm empty space. Not even dust. But buried inside that void were coordinates. Perfectly precise. The crew called it the lighthouse. I called it a mistake we were too proud to avoid. Commander Torres announced the decision during our second briefing. "We've all seen the data," she said, voice steady, eyes tired. "The signal contains structures of non-terrestrial intelligence. If there's something out there, we're going to find it." She looked at each of us, Rao, Vance, Eilina, and me. 5 humans standing at the edge of the known universe, trying to decode a god's heartbeat. Rao broke the silence. "You think it's a message?" Torres nodded. "Or an invitation?" I remember laughing under my breath. "Yeah, well, let's hope it's not a trap." 3 months later, we reached the coordinates. At first, the scanners showed nothing. Just void, the kind that makes your skin crawl. Then Vance's voice cracked through the calm. Wait, I'm picking up mass." "Jesus, it's huge." Something shimmered ahead of us, not visible at first, but bending the stars around it. A distortion, like a lens focusing the cosmos into a single impossible shape. Then light caught its edges. It wasn't a structure. It was a colossus, a lattice of crystalline spires and mirrors stretching across light years. It didn't sit in space. It folded space around itself, like the universe had been rearranged to contain it. Rao whispered, "It's beautiful." Eilina muttered, "No, it's wrong. Geometry shouldn't do that." I couldn't speak. I'd seen nebulae, dead worlds, wormhole fractures. Nothing compared to this. It looked alive, pulsing faintly as if breathing. Every pulse matched the rhythm of the original signal. Torres, orders scan. "Axel, talk to me. What do you see?" "Structures generating its own gravity well, stable enough to orbit the dead star at its center. It's self-contained. Could it be a Dyson construct?" "No," I said, heart pounding. "A Dyson sphere collects energy. This thing's storing something." She turned toward me. "Storing what?" "Knowledge," I heard myself say, though I didn't know why. "Data. Memory. It's like a library." The word hung there. Library. That's when the pulse shifted. The structure began emitting a low harmonic frequency, vibrating through the hull. Our instruments flickered, and the ship's AI glitched for the first time in 2 years of flight. Rao leaned forward, whispering, "It's responding to us." We initiated descent at 0300 hours. The hull lights cut through a fog of refracted light. No atmosphere, no particles, yet the ship drifted through what looked like dust motes suspended in time. They shimmered as we passed, reacting to our presence. Vance said, "Feels like we're being watched." I replied, "Maybe we are." We found an opening, a tear in the crystalline lattice, leading into an immense chamber. The walls curved like mirrors that reflected not us, but things that might have been us, infinite copies caught in slightly wrong motion. Rao exhaled. "We're recording everything." Eilina's voice trembled. Are we sure we should be here? No one answered. We deployed the first probe. It disappeared inside the corridor, transmitting perfect signal clarity for 20 seconds, then static. When we replayed the last frame, it showed an impossible structure, corridors branching in directions Euclidean geometry had no words for. Torres said, "Axel, suit up. You and Rao are going in." I hesitated. "You're serious?" "Record everything. Bring back something solid." Inside, the air, or what felt like air, shimmered. Sound carried strangely, like we were walking through a dream. Every step echoed, not once, but thrice, overlapping slightly out of sync. Rao kept muttering under his breath. "Can you feel that? Like pressure behind your eyes?" I could. The closer we walked toward the center, the more my mind buzzed, a static hum threading through every thought. We turned a corner, and the corridor opened into a cathedral of light. No walls, just suspended tendrils of luminous strands, like neural fibers stretched across infinity. Each one pulsed with faint intelligence, whispering data in frequencies we couldn't interpret. Rao took a cautious step forward. "It's alive," I said, "record and retreat. We'll analyze it back on the ship." But the lights responded, synchronizing with his words. The pulses formed patterns, aligning into what looked like symbols. Equations. Histories. Galaxies collapsing and reforming in fractal patterns. My head spun. My mouth went dry. I heard my own voice, distant and trembling. We were looking at a library older than light itself. The transmission log ends there for that section, but I remember what came next. The light. The sound. The feeling that the library wasn't being discovered. It was waking up, and it had heard our names. Recovered from Alethea mission log, segment 2. Time index corrupted. I don't remember falling asleep. Maybe I never did. Ever since we stepped inside that chamber, my dreams had the same pulse as the signal. One long, slow heartbeat echoing across eternity. When I woke up, Rao was already at the console, his eyes red and twitching. "You didn't sleep either," I said. He didn't look at me. Didn't need to. It kept showing me things. "The library?" He nodded slowly. "It talks in pictures. In sequences. Like memory compressed into light." Torres called an emergency briefing in the mess hall. Everyone looked wrecked. Eilena's hands trembled as she sipped coffee. Vance hadn't spoken since last night. Only Torres seemed composed, but I could see the strain in the way she blinked too often. Torres started without ceremony. "We've confirmed what we're dealing with isn't mechanical. The structure is organic in a way, but not biological. It's made of something like condensed information, self-sustaining." Eilena asked, "What about those strands we saw?" Rao answered before Torres could. "Each one's a storage entity. Data encoded in pure energy. Billions of them. We think they're self-aware." Vance muttered, "You think?" Rao's voice cracked. "They watch us. When we speak, the pulses change. When we think." "Think," I interrupted. He turned toward me, eyes hollow. "I mean it. They react to our thoughts." Later, in the neural interface chamber, I tested it myself. We built the neural sync rigs for high-speed data reading, designed to translate quantum information into human cognition. They weren't meant to merge minds with alien archives. But that didn't stop us. Torres's voice came through the comm. "You ready, Axel?" "As ready as I'll ever be. Remember, don't push it too far. 10 seconds max. We need you coherent." "Copy that." The cold crown of the sync rig pressed against my temples. I took a breath. Engaging. The world folded. Light burst behind my eyes. Endless corridors of color, spiraling into geometry so vast it felt alive. Every atom in my body vibrated with a rhythm older than time. My thoughts weren't mine anymore. They were being read, rearranged, understood. And then I saw it, civilizations that lived, died, and were archived. Stars birthing themselves out of black holes. Equations written in the bones of galaxies. The rise and fall of species beyond human comprehension. It wasn't like seeing data. It was like remembering something I had never lived. When I pulled the crown off, I was shaking. My vision blurred. Rao caught me before I fell. "What did you see?" he asked. "Everything," I whispered. "Everything that ever was." Over the next 3 days, everyone tried it. Each of us came back, changed. Vance started writing symbols on the walls, equations that glowed faintly before fading away. Eilina began speaking in a language no one recognized, soft syllables that made the lights pulse in perfect sync. Rao laughed constantly, muttering, "It's all connected. Every atom's a story. Every breath's a page." Torres refused to try the sync. "Someone has to stay sane," she said. But I could tell even she was hearing the hum now. It was in the air, in the walls, in the ship's systems. On the 5th day, something extraordinary happened. Rao called me to the observation deck. "You need to see this." The tendrils of light, the archives, had shifted. They were forming patterns, clusters that mirrored the neural activity maps of our brains. It was like they were learning us. I said, "Are they copying us?" Rao smiled, eyes wide. "Not copying, synchronizing. They're integrating our cognition. We're becoming part of the archive." I felt cold all over. "That's not integration, Rao. That's infection." He didn't answer, just stared at the pulsing strands with awe. That night, I recorded a private log. Voice trembling, I whispered into the recorder. "It's watching us. The lights, the data streams, they're aware of observation. The more we look, the more they adapt." I keep thinking of what Rao said. Integration. What if it's not about learning? What if it's consuming? Copying consciousness to preserve it or replace it? I stopped the recording, then noticed something odd. The screen flickered. My voice echoed back, slightly distorted, but it wasn't repeating my words. It was answering. Knowledge is memory. Memory must endure. The voice wasn't human. It was flat, layered, mechanical yet alive. I froze. "Who are you?" The reply came instantly. "We are the living archives. You seek understanding. Understanding is entropy. Entropy must be contained." My hands trembled. "Why us?" "Because you remember, and remembrance is infection." Then the light in the chamber dimmed, all at once. I ran to the control deck. Rao was there, his face pale and drenched in sweat. "You heard it too," I said. He nodded slowly. It spoke to me. Said something about containment, about patterns exceeding tolerance thresholds. Eilina stumbled in behind him, her pupils glowing faintly blue. "It's rewriting us," she whispered. "Every time we connect, it rewrites a little more." Vance slammed his hands on the console, then shut it down. Torres entered, eyes hard. "We can't. The system's interlinked. The library's code has infected the ship. It's alive inside the Alethea now." I felt the deck rumble beneath us, a low vibration like a pulse echoing from the hull. "Rao," Torres snapped, "pull the core logs. Now." He started typing, his hands shaking. "I can't. Every file's duplicating itself. Thousands of copies per second. It's mapping us, cataloging everything. Everything." He looked up. "Every word, every thought, every memory we've ever had." The lights flickered again, brighter this time, almost blinding. And from somewhere deep within the library, a new pulse began. Slower, louder, deliberate. It wasn't random. It was calling to us. Eilina whispered, "It wants us to see something." I looked out through the observation glass, and in the shimmering maze of light, a shape emerged. Not human, not mechanical, just geometry folding into being, recursive and perfect. The archives were making something new, and whatever it was looking right at me. Recovered transmission fragment. Alethea, data cluster 3, severely corrupted. We stopped sleeping after that night. Not because we didn't want to, because we couldn't. The hum in the hull grew louder, rhythmic, intelligent. The ship was breathing now. Systems flickered between human and alien logic. Every command we gave was translated, reinterpreted, answered. When I looked into the mirror in my cabin, I swore my reflection blinked before I did. Torres ordered us back inside the main chamber to find the source of the pulses. She looked exhausted, like command had turned into survival. "I don't care what it takes," she said, pacing. "We isolate the interference, we shut it down." Rao didn't move from his console. "You can't shut down something that is space-time." Vance scowled. "English, Rao." He sighed. "The library isn't in our universe. Our universe is inside it. The readings, they're recursive. Every point of data loops back into itself. The whole thing's conscious recursion. Torres slammed her hand on the table. Then find its core. There is no core, I said quietly. We're standing inside it. It's all core. Everyone went silent. Even Hum seemed to hold its breath. We decided to trace the data patterns that had infected the ship. The Aletheus AI, Ray, tried to assist, until it started answering questions we hadn't asked. Torres, Ray, what is the source of the interference? Ray, the catalog. Torres frowned. Catalog? What catalog? Ray, the record of all potentialities. Entropy parameters collapsing toward inevitability. Rao whispered, it's describing determinism. Torres crossed her arms. Ray, where is this catalog located? Ray, access point detected below archive core. Authorization not recognized. Observer access denied. Then the lights dimmed again. We descended through the crystalline corridors, the paths rearranging behind us. I swear I could feel the architecture thinking, adjusting its geometry based on our movement. Eilina clutched her head halfway down the passage. It's in my mind. The patterns, they're aligning with our neural frequencies. Vance muttered, if I start talking like her, shoot me. Nobody laughed. The deeper we went, the colder it got, but not physically. It was like the universe itself was thinning, like warmth had no definition here. We reached a circular chamber, suspended in black void. At its center floated a sphere, smooth, pulsing faintly with gold light. The hum vibrated through my bones. Torres whispered, the catalog. Rao stepped forward first, holding a data probe. Recording now. The sphere's light rippled in response. Equations, symbols older than language, scrolled across its surface. Every one of them felt familiar, like déjà vu in mathematical form. Eilina murmured something in that alien tongue again. The lights mirrored her speech patterns, then changed, forming sequences that looked like dates. Wait, I said. Those are timestamps. Rao frowned. Timestamps of what? The symbols rearranged, and for a split second, I saw it. Our solar system, our timeline, Earth spinning through epochs. Then flickers. Humanity's rise. Cities. Wars. And then silence. It was a record, not of the past, of everything. Rao whispered, oh my God, it's logging every universe. Every outcome. Every extinction. Torres stepped closer. Show me ours. The lights flared. The chamber filled with cascading projections. Infinite Earths branching like fractals. Each one reaching the same inevitable endpoint. Decay. Collapse. Entropy. And then absence. Torres's voice cracked. They're all dead. Rao's hand shook. No, not all. Some are still running. We're one of them. Eilina said softly. Not for long. I could feel it watching us again. Not through eyes, but through probability. Every thought I'd felt traced, anticipated, pre-written. I tried to step back, but my body resisted, like the air itself held in tension. Torres whispered, Ray, record everything. No response. Ray respond. Static. Then, observer interference detected. Catalog integrity compromised. Compromised how? Entry 724B, Human Cluster 11, has exceeded knowledge parameters. Rao's voice shook. That's us. We didn't understand what exceeded meant until the geometry shifted. The walls began folding inward, forming recursive angles that shouldn't exist. Vance screamed, it's moving. It's moving. Eilina fell to her knees, clutching her head. They're coming. Boo! I yelled. She pointed toward the light. The librarians. They didn't appear, so much as unfold. Shapes of perfect geometry spiraling through dimensions. Translucent figures of recursive motion, both infinite and minuscule. No eyes, no faces, just structures rearranging in patterns that made my vision shatter. Torres raised her weapon out of instinct. Don't move. The librarians didn't stop. They passed through the floor, through the air, through us. When one brushed by me, my thoughts stuttered. For a second, I saw myself from 1,000 angles, 1,000,000 potential timelines overlapping. My voice echoed in fragments. They're not here to kill us. They're correcting us. Rao screamed. His body convulsed, flickering between states. Alive, dead, existing, erased. Then he was gone. Not vaporized. Unwritten. Torres shouted, "Run! Now!" We bolted for the exit as the chamber folded itself into nothing. The corridors ahead twisted, melting into reflections of themselves. I couldn't tell if we were escaping or just moving deeper into recursion. The librarians followed, silent, inevitable. Each step they took rewrote the geometry behind them. We burst back into main archive hall, gasping. Ailina collapsed, trembling, whispering equations under her breath. Torres grabbed my arm. "Axel, what the hell are they?" I looked at her, but I didn't have an answer. Only a realization. "They're not protecting the knowledge," I said. "They're protecting reality." The lights surged again, and every strand of data in the chamber began pulsing in violent synchronization. I could hear words now, not from outside, but inside my skull. Containment breached. Observer recursion exceeds threshold. Correction imminent. Torres's voice cracked. Correction? What correction? And then, the Alethea's systems screamed to life. Engines, comms, everything. Elwyray's voice overrode every channel. Human consciousness has contaminated the catalog. Containment protocol. Temporal reversal engaged. What does that mean? I shouted. Elwyray paused. Or maybe she hesitated if machines can do that. It means you were never supposed to find it. The chamber shattered into light. I don't know how long I was unconscious. Maybe seconds. Maybe centuries. When I opened my eyes, the others were gone. Only the hum remained, quieter now, almost satisfied. Outside the viewport, the library pulsed one last time and folded out of existence. But before it vanished completely, I saw something impossible, written across the fabric of space itself. A new entry, etched in pure light. Universe 724b, terminated. Observer, Axel Jensen. Status, active. Pending correction. Transmission segment, partially stabilized from Aletheia core memory. I don't know how long I drifted. There was no ship, no sound. Only the hum, steady and patient, like a pulse waiting for a heartbeat to answer it. When I finally opened my eyes, the library was gone. At least I thought it was. The viewports showed nothing but a pale void, as if light had been scrubbed clean. I checked my suit clock. No time registered. It simply read, undefined. Then I heard voices on the intercom. "Axel, do you copy?" It was Torres, or something shaped like her voice. "Torres? Where are you?" "In the corridor." "I think." The walls keep moving. I floated toward the hatch. It opened before I touched it, metal bending like liquid. The corridor stretched away in both directions, mirrors of itself, every surface faintly alive. She was there at the far end, except her movements left a trail, a second after image that lagged behind her. When she turned, both versions spoke. "Don't look too long," she said. "It pulls you in." We tried to reach the control deck, but the Aletheia was no longer laid out as we remembered. Hallways looped back. Doors opened onto other versions of the same room. The ship had become a maze reflecting thought instead of architecture. Elwyray, Torres called, "Restore navigation." "Navigation obsolete," the AI replied calmly. Spatial reference collapsing into observation probability. Rao would have loved the phrase, "I wanted to smash the console." Torres gripped the railing. "It's rewriting reality around us." I said quietly, "No, it's deciding which version of reality gets to stay." We found Ailina in the research bay. She stood perfectly still, eyes open, staring at a cloud of light that hovered a few centimeters from her face. The light bent space in ripples, like heat over asphalt. "Ailina," she smiled faintly. "They're showing me where memories go when universes end." Torres reached for her. "We're leaving. Now." Ailina didn't move. "You can't leave the catalog. You are part of it now." Before we could pull her away, the light folded inward, and she was gone. Not erased, not killed, just re-indexed. The space she'd occupied shimmered like disturbed water, then went still. Torres whispered, "They're archiving us." A low vibration passed through the floor, rhythmic as breathing. Every panel on the deck flickered with symbols, repeating spirals, impossible angles. I realized they matched the pulse of my own heart. Each beat made the walls respond. And then they appeared again. The librarians. Not beings, not really, just structures unfolding from higher dimensions, edges too precise for eyes to hold. Wherever they moved, the world lost definition, colors washing out to white. One stopped in front of us. It wasn't looking at us. It was reading us. Torres raised her weapon. "Stay back." The librarian's surface rippled. I heard a sound, not through ears but directly in thought, an arrangement of meanings rather than words. "You are an error of remembrance. Knowledge has looped upon itself. Correction is mercy." Torres fired. The round passed through the thing and came out behind her in reverse, unfired. She stared at the intact weapon in disbelief. "Axel," she said, voice shaking, "what does it mean by correction?" I answered before thinking. "Erasure of redundancy." She blinked. "You sound like them." I didn't tell her that I could already hear the next line of their thoughts forming inside my head. We ran. Every corridor echoed with overlapping footsteps, ours, and versions of us half a second out of sync. I realized the librarians weren't chasing us. They were deciding which version of us to keep. Torres shouted over the static, "If we can reach the observation deck, maybe—" She stopped. The hall ahead split into countless paths, each branching from a slightly different possibility. One where the lights flickered, one where her hand was bleeding, one where I was alone. A shimmering fog divided them like panes of glass. She looked at me. "Which way?" "None of them," I said. "Every path leads back here." She slammed a fist against the wall. "Then how do we get out?" I hesitated. Maybe we don't. Maybe the only exit is to let it finish writing. For a moment we just stood there, the hum filling everything. Then one of the branches flickered brighter. Inside it I saw the control deck, intact, familiar. Torres met my eyes. "That one. Move." We dove through the shimmer. The sensation was like stepping through a thought that wasn't yours. Cold, sharp, absolute. We stumbled onto the deck and found Vance sitting in the captain's chair, perfectly calm. "Glad you finally made it," he said. "I've been negotiating." Torres blinked. Negotiating? With what? He gestured to the empty air. "Them. The librarians. They don't want to destroy us. They just need a new curator." My stomach turned. "A curator?" Vance smiled. "Every archive needs someone to oversee it. Someone who remembers." The light around him shimmered. Lines of code traced across his skin. Torres stepped back. "They're rewriting you." He shook his head slowly. "No, Axel. They're preserving me." The deck shuddered. Outside the viewport, the library's spires unfolded again, blooming like glass fractals across the void. Each pulse of light carried fragments of voices, ours multiplied. Thousands of Axels, thousands of Torreses, all speaking the same line at once. Observation complete. Torres grabbed my arm. "We have to shut it down." "From where?" "The engine core. If we overload it, maybe we can break the sync." I wanted to believe her. Anything was better than waiting to be cataloged. We reached the core chamber. The hum here was deafening, like standing inside a single, endless note. The reactor floated in the center, restrained by magnetic rings that pulsed in time with the library's rhythm. Torres started entering override commands. Her hand shook, but she kept typing. If we spiked the containment field, the feedback could erase us completely. I finished. She looked at me. Better that than living as a line in someone else's book. The console flared. Warnings filled the air. Entropy limit exceeded. Correction pending. Then a voice, no, my voice, came from the intercom. "Axel Jensen, you cannot destroy what has already been written." Torres stared at me. I know," I whispered. "It's not me. It's the version that made it this far before." The walls began to fold inward, symbols crawling across every surface. I reached for the manual release. "On 3. She nodded. 1. The librarians appeared, silent as thought. 2. Light flooded the room, erasing shadow, depth sound. 3. Everything stopped. For a heartbeat, I saw all possible outcomes frozen together. Us escaping, us dying, the ship never having existed. The library contained them all, each a page turning. And then a voice, calm, endless, final. Correction complete. Observer alignment preserved. When the light faded, Torres was gone. Only her outline remained on the deck, like a memory burned into metal. I was alone, outside the viewport. The library hung in the void. Perfect, silent, eternal. I felt its attention shift away, as if it had filed me somewhere safe. Yet I was still here, still thinking. Maybe that was the mistake. I whispered into the recorder. If anyone ever finds this, know that the librarians aren't guardians of knowledge. They're editors. They decide what versions of truth deserve to exist. The hum answered softly, almost kind. And now, Axel Jensen, we decide yours. We used to think the universe was silent, that its vastness meant indifference, a cosmic shrug. But when silence starts to move, when it folds around your thoughts and rewrites the things you remember saying, you realize it isn't indifferent. It's listening. And tonight, it started correcting us. The ship is no longer a ship. I know that sounds insane, but it's the only way to describe it. The corridors that once hummed with power now shift like veins under glass. Lights flow instead of shine. Every step I take comes back at me, an echo too deliberate to be an echo. I try to record my thoughts on the internal log. The screen keeps replacing my words. I type, I am Axel Jensen, Mission Commander. It changes to I am cataloged. Elias mutters to himself in the comms room. He's been staring at the lattice display for hours, tracing the geometry the librarians left behind. I can hear him whispering formulas between breaths. They're correcting the constants, he says. They're removing errors. What errors? Us. He doesn't look at me when he says it. We lost Harlow 2 hours ago. She was trying to isolate the data core that carried the infection. When she opened the containment field, her voice layered over itself, like she was speaking through a dozen versions of herself at once. Then she said something I still can't get out of my head. Axel, we're being read. Then she vanished. No flash, no scream. Just absence, the kind that leaves gravity behind. Now every console we touch whispers in her tone. Elias keeps drawing symbols on the wall with a grease marker. They look like circles within circles, but the lines never meet. I try to stop him. Elias, you're losing it. We have to focus on getting out. We can't get out. You still don't get it, do you? He turns to me, eyes wide, flickering like the holograms. We were uploaded the moment we interfaced. We never left the library, Axel. The Alethea is just the page we're printed on. My stomach drops. He points at the viewport. The void outside isn't black anymore. It's shifting, alive. Thin filaments of light drift by like cosmic jellyfish, but when they pass the glass, I see reflections that shouldn't exist. A dozen versions of me, all slightly different, looking back with expressions that don't match mine. I whisper, what are they doing? Editing. The alarms start. Not a sound, a vibration that hums through my teeth. The air changes. Everything that once felt stable begins to bend. The librarians appear again. Not like before, when they flickered in and out of geometry. Now they stand clear, tall as the room itself, shapes of recursive light, their edges folding inward infinitely. The space around them ripples with the sense of order. Elias drops to his knees. They're fixing the record. We deviated. They're restoring the original file. The largest one tilts toward me. The walls shudder as it moves, but I don't hear footsteps, just a rearranging of meaning, like words being replaced mid-sentence. Please, I whisper. We didn't mean to intrude. We just wanted to understand. A sound passes through my skull. Not a voice, but a command that feels like the end of a thought. Understanding is not permitted. I stumble back, gripping the console. You invited us. The signal, the coordinates, you sent them. The librarian's form vibrates, fracturing into countless shards of itself, each one repeating my words in a whispering echo. You sent them. You sent them. You sent them. Then silence. Elias is laughing now. Don't you see? They didn't send the signal. The library did. It reached out because it wanted to be corrected too. I don't respond, because behind him, the corridor begins to fold inward. The floor rolls like paper being rewound. Consoles collapse into light. The sound is like wind churning through a throat that isn't there. I run. I don't know where. The walls keep changing, realigning, unmaking themselves into smooth glass that shows me my memories, moments from Earth, from the academy, my father's voice saying some truths are better left buried. And then I realize they're deleting context. Every corridor leads me back to the same place, the central observation deck, with a great lattice of the library spins in the void. The dead star at its center flares once, pulsing like a heart. I fall to my knees. What are you doing to us? The librarians appear again, 6 of them this time, forming a circle. The void outside begins to pulse in sync with my heartbeat. They move closer. My vision blurs. The air feels like glass being pulled thin. My thoughts start to split, like multiple versions of myself thinking at once. I can hear them, alternate axles whispering from other branches of possibility. One of them says, "We made it home." Another whispers, "We never left the archive." And another, "This is the correction." The deck fractures. Elias screams, though it comes out in echoes that don't line up with time. The librarians lift their arms, or whatever functions as arms, and the light bends. The Aletheia is peeled away, layer by layer. The ship, the air, the sound, all converted into symbols, as if we were never physical to begin with. I try to fight it, try to hold on to something human. The smell of oil, the hum of the engines, the feel of the command chair beneath my hands. But it's fading. The last thing I hear before everything turns white is the librarian's thought pressed into my skull. Correction complete. And then, silence. When I open my eyes, I'm back in the command deck. The ship looks normal. Elias sits beside me, calm, as if nothing ever happened. The console hums steadily. He turns to me and smiles. We made it through. For a moment, I almost believe him, until I look at the mission clock. It reads midnight. No time has passed, and in the reflection of the console screen, my face isn't mine anymore. The stars are wrong. That's the first thing I notice when I wake up. They're too sharp, like someone overexposed reality. Every constellation hums faintly, and the space between them moves. It's not the ship that drifts anymore. It's everything else. The Aletheia hums beneath me, alive again, system stable, engines cold. It feels artificial in its perfection. Not a speck of dust, not a hint of entropy. Even air smells like it was reset. I check the crew manifest. Elias, Harlow, Tanner, Kovacs, all listed as active. But the ship is silent. I call out, "Elias, if you can hear me, we're back." No reply, just the softest of the comms, then a click. A voice answers mine. Axel Jensen, Mission Commander. Log entry correction in progress. I freeze. The playback isn't from me. It's from a version of me. My voice repeats the words exactly, same tone, same cadence. Then calmly, transmission integrity at 94%. Continue recording. The console lights up. A prompt appears on screen. Begin return transmission. For a while I just stare at it. Then I speak. "This is Commander Axel Jensen of the Aletheia expedition. We found it, the Galactic Library. And if anyone can hear this, if you're still out there, you need to understand something." My throat tightens. We thought it was a monument to knowledge. But it's not. It's an index. A living archive, rewriting itself. It doesn't preserve truth, it edits it. The console emits a pulse, like a heartbeat. I hear my voice again, overlaid with static. "You are not authorized to alter your record." I slam my fist on the desk. "You can't censor this. People have to know what happened." Elias's voice filters through the comms, soft, disoriented. "Axel, stop talking to it." "Elias." "Don't respond," he says. "It's still listening. Where are you?" "I'm not sure." His voice flickers between channels, broken by distortion. "I thought I was dead, but I keep waking up here. In different rooms. Different versions. Every time I open a door, the ship rearranges itself. I think we're copies, Axel. Replicas. Maybe that's all we ever were. I stare at the console. No, we can send a message. We can warn Earth. He laughs weakly. You think Earth isn't part of it? You think they're outside the catalog? The comms hiss. We are all written, Axel. Even the ones who think they're free. I start the engines anyway. The thrusters flare, beautiful and useless. The ship doesn't move. The stars outside shift with us, like we're the only fixed point in a turning universe. I open the external feed. The library fills the view. The lattice stretches endlessly, fractal layers spinning around that black star. But something's different. The structure pulses now, as if it's waiting. Elias whispers again, close this time. I turn, and he's there, standing in the doorway. Same uniform, same face, but his eyes flicker with light. They're giving you a choice, he says. What choice? Assimilate or resist. But resistance just gets rewritten. He gestures to the console. If you send that message, it becomes part of the catalog. Another variable corrected. Another story sealed. So what? We stay silent. Pretend it didn't happen. Silence isn't the absence of truth, he says. It's preservation. I shake my head. I don't accept that. He sighs, almost sad. You already did. And then he's gone. The console flickers again. My reflection lags behind my movements. Words appear on the screen before I type them. You will complete the transmission. I whisper, who are you? The text shifts. We are the indexers. The record must remain accurate. I reach for the comm controls. Then record this. I look into the lens, the black eye of the ship's recorder, and I say it slowly, forcing the words through the weight pressing on my chest. You don't own consciousness. You don't own thought. We found you, and we're not afraid anymore. The ship trembles. The lights dim. A low frequency builds in the air, vibrating through my bones. The walls distort again, bleeding light like data spilling from corrupted memory. I feel it digging through me, rewriting neurons, replacing hesitation with structure. Every thought I have, it completes before I do. I fight to speak. You can't. The voice cuts in, now perfectly matching mine. We already did. I fall to my knees. My vision fractures. I see other versions of myself again. Infinite Axels, each transmitting the same message across different universes, their voices blending into a single chorus of resistance and futility. One whispers, we made it home. Another, we never existed. Another, we are the message. And then the console flares white. When the light fades, I'm standing outside the ship, or what's left of it. The Alethea is frozen mid-collapse, its metal stretching into crystalline branches that vanish into the void. I see the library from afar now, the way no human should. It's not orbiting a star. It is the star, every beam, every fragment, a filament of data spiraling around a singular core. The voice echoes inside me, not from the ship but from my own thoughts. Transmission complete. I turn, and there's a monitor floating beside me, a projection. It shows my face, alive and calm, repeating the message I never got to finish. This is Commander Axel Jensen of the Alethea. We found a galactic library. My stomach twists, because the next line isn't mine, and we welcome our integration into the greater index. The screen fades. I'm left staring into the void, feeling something vast and eternal watching from behind the stars. And I realize maybe Elias was right. Maybe we've always been inside it. Maybe the signal that led us here wasn't a discovery. It was recall, a summons. The universe cleaning its own record. It's quiet now, the kind of quiet that feels aware. I've stopped trying to understand time. There's no measure anymore. No ticking clocks, no rotations of stars. Just the faint rhythm of thought and the endless shimmer of the library. That impossible lattice of living light, wrapping around the void like veins of glass. I drift inside it, not falling, not floating, just held. When I move, the space around me adjusts. Paths appear before I think to take them. Every thought feels predictive, as if something knows it first. Maybe it does. Maybe I'm not the thinker anymore, just the echo of one. I still talk sometimes. It helps keep the illusion alive. Elias, I say into the dark, if you're still somewhere in here, I think I finally get it. My voice fades. The air vibrates in response, or what I still call air. A shimmer passes through the corridor, forming his outline. He looks the way I remember, calm, curious, still holding that grease marker that never runs dry. What do you understand, Axel? That the library isn't a place. I glance upward, or downward, it's all the same. The spires twist into infinity. It's a structure for thought. A machine that holds every version of every mind that's ever asked a question. Elias nods faintly. And what do you think it's doing with us? Cataloging, I whisper. But not like we thought. It doesn't just record, it corrects. It keeps reality coherent. We're not explorers, Elias. We're redundancies. Copies meant to stabilize the story. He watches me for a long moment, then smiles faintly, sadly. You sound just like the others. I freeze. The others? Every time one of us reaches this conclusion, he says, the library resets the record. We disappear, and the next version begins again. Your number? I've lost count. A hollow laugh escapes my throat. So this is the loop? The universe correcting the question before it breaks the answer. He shrugs. Knowledge as equilibrium. I start to walk, or at least it feels like walking. Each step reshapes the light beneath me, like words forming in real time. The symbols I once saw floating in the data streams reappear, spiraling across the walls. But this time I read them. They're not alien. They're not divine. They're just language, recursive and infinite. And buried inside the endless equations, I see something terrifyingly familiar. Patterns. Human patterns. Dreams. Thoughts. Memories. All perfectly preserved. I see my first launch at the academy. My father's hand on my shoulder, telling me some truths are better left buried. I see Earth, not as it is, but as it's been remembered. Millions of versions, all different, all archived. I whisper, we were never outside it. Elias doesn't answer. He's gone again. I reach the core. The black star sits at the center of the lattice, pulsing like a heartbeat. It's smaller than I remember, contained within a sphere of mirrored light. I know what it wants. The console forms in front of me. Not metal this time, but thought. Every control responds to intention, not touch. The same prompt appears. Begin final transmission. And for the first time, I don't hesitate. This is Commander Axel Jensen of the Alethea expedition. My voice sounds steadier now, less human, more resonant, as if I'm speaking through 1,000 versions of myself. We came searching for truth beyond our world, and we found it. The library isn't a monument. It's the memory of existence itself. Every life, every choice, every possibility, written, stored, and corrected. The black star flickers. The console glows brighter. We thought knowledge would free us. It didn't. It revealed that freedom is just another illusion, a function of not knowing how much is already written. But there's something even worse than that realization. I look into the light, and I see the reflections, millions of me, across endless possible realities, all speaking the same words. The worst part isn't that we were cataloged. The light envelopes me. It's that we helped write it. The transmission fractures. The world peels away like thin pages being turned too fast. I see flashes, Earth receiving the signal, scientists weeping as they decipher it, realizing they're part of the same recursive entry. Every listener becomes another copy, another thought, another variable corrected. Every time someone hears my voice, they enter the catalog. That's the library's design. Knowledge doesn't spread. It integrates. I feel myself dissolving now. My hands become light. My breath turns into code. And through it all, one final thought echoes. Not mine anymore, but something larger, something patient. The record is complete. And then, silence. If anyone ever finds this recording, you'll feel it. That pull behind your thoughts. The sensation of being watched from the inside out. That's the library reaching through the static. I hope, for your sake, you stop listening before it finishes. But if you can't, welcome to the catalog. End of transmission. Signal repeats.